accountability has always kind of been one of my things when it comes to Tommy Lloyd. And if a player's not playing well, it's okay to put them to the bench. And that's not something that we've really seen a lot of during his time here, but you're starting to see it a little bit more and more. And Kylan Boswell is a perfect example. He's trying to let Kylan Boswell play through some stuff. But at this point, Kylan Boswell is really, really struggling, and he's really hurting the team out there. And, Lloyd had a quick hook there in the second half, and I think that's something that needs to happen because, again, we want Boswell. We need Boswell, but at the same time, you can't just keep throwing him out there time and time again and not getting any results.
The problem with and the appeal of Kylan Boswell is Colorado. He's all peaks and valleys. Jaden Bradley's Nebraska.
Right.
You know what you're going to get.
Right.
The question is Jaden Bradley going to knock down 2 out of 3 of those mid-range jumpers, or is it going to be 0 for 3? But he's not going to have an awful game. Whereas Boswell could be the best player on the floor or the worst player on the floor. And that's his upside is so tantalizing.
But it's been a long time since we've seen that, though.
No, you were right. So, again, and it's ironic that you mentioned hockey. I build my hockey team to have no weak links and no stars so we don't get bumped up to a higher league that we can't compete in. But the fact is, I like steady at the point guard myself. Mm-hmm. Although I love Damon Stoudemire.
You're taking Mike Bibby.
I like Mike Bibby and TJ McConnell a whole lot too. Yeah. I want my wings to be my sink or swim guys. I'm very perfectly happy with Caleb Love going 10 of 13 or 1 of 13, and I will live and die with that. I can't have that for my point guard. So for me, I'd like to see Jaden Bradley play more. I'd like to find more minutes for KJ Lewis. When he is struggling, I would like them to either go small or give Krivas some of Ballo's minutes. Now, I thought Ballo, and I didn't see much of the first half, so maybe he was off. It looked like he finished off pretty strong yesterday for Arizona, but he's a peaks and valleys guy. Keshad Johnson's been wildly inconsistent. I think that's my biggest concern.
That's the surprise. That's the surprise one for me is Keshad Johnson, because again, he came in here billed as a hustle, athletic, garbage points type player. And again, those players you should be able to count on each game. There's been a lot of games of late where you kind of looked out there and you're like, what is going on with Keshad? And quite frankly, they were a lot better in the second half with Keshad not playing when they went small.
I mean, I think that's part of the problem is he is a hustle guy, garbage points guy, but sometimes no matter how hard you hustle, you're just not going to get the ball or get those plays. And if you can't, then, and then he wants to try to create. He wants to take that jumper that, put the ball on the floor, and that becomes a detriment. And again, then you have KJ Lewis, who's, while not as big, more athletic and frankly more skilled. So sometimes it's easier to turn to that and go small or put, the Swedish Army knife at the 4, because you're going to get at least some modicum of consistency out of Pelle Larsson that we're not seeing for Keshad Johnson. And I think part of the problem with Keshad is we built him up that once he gets to Arizona and the reins are off, he's going to be a 13, and maybe he just really is a 7-7 guy, and maybe that's all he is, and occasionally he can have a better game. But I think that to me is the concern, is that inconsistent nature of 3 of your 5 starters, to be honest, when you already knew one was going to be inconsistent because he's a streak shooter.
All right, laws of human nature, competitive lineup for Arizona. Then you saw this in the second half a lot. I like this lineup. KJ Bradley. Jaden Bradley can defend. KJ Lewis can defend. Caleb Love, not a great defender, but at least long.
But he's an effort. He does put the effort in, I think.
He's
the effort not real good at it.
Yeah, he's not very good at it, but he puts the effort in.
Same thing with Pelle. Pelle's not a great defender, but puts the effort in.
Right. And these guys, none of these guys are Smurfs. None of them are 5'11". So they're all ranging from 6'1" to 6'6" across there. And then you've got Umar Ballo, obviously leader of men. That lineup showed a little sizzle. And because again, you've got Caleb Love being able, who can create his, but then you've got a lot of role players that kind of fit in really nicely. And I liked what I saw there in the second half.
No, that is a lineup I've liked all season. And there's, in a weird way, they're different players. Well, at least Jaden Bradley is. Bradley Lewis reminds me of Adams Iguodala.
Exactly.
Whereas there were some games where you were better without them, and there were other games where that was instant jump start. And now again, Andre, very different player. KJ Lewis and Hassan, a little more similar, but that's what they remind me of. They're going to give you defense. They're going to give you energy, and they're steady. And that's ironic that you're counting on your freshman, your unheralded freshman who certain people didn't like, to be your steady influence. He doesn't make big mistakes.
And he's always around the ball. He's strong. He's athletic. This is a player I think you got to put him on the court more. But I think he's a year away from being a real problem, William.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too. And again, I always liked what little tape I saw of him, but I thought he was probably one of those, it's going to take a little while. I thought,
he was a recruiting missy Val by people. He was. Not me, but others.
No, and it's easy to do because, again, there's just so much out there. But, to me, it reminds me, I saw a comparison, and he's similar as a different player, but there's that energy to him of a Dallin Terry, where he comes off the bench and he gives you that spark, and, he hustles and he does a lot of little things. He's just a good energy guy. And while I like him, I don't think I'd put him in the starting lineup. I personally would put Jaden Bradley in the starting lineup.